You know, there's something almost invisible that begins to change in us after we cross 40. It's not just the body, it's the energy, the motivation, that subtle spark that used to make mornings feel alive. When you were 20, you probably woke up and ran out the door. Coffee wasn't a necessity, it was a choice. Your body was an engine of effortless motion. But somewhere along the way, mornings started to feel heavier. You open your eyes and the first thought isn't excitement, it's exhaustion. You think maybe I didn't sleep well, but deep down, it's more than sleep. It's the chemistry of being alive, quietly changing. Let me tell you a story. A few months ago, I met a man named David. He's 47, a father of two, runs a small design business, and he told me something that I think many of us can relate to. He said, I wake up tired. Every morning feels like climbing a hill I can't see the top of. I drink coffee, sometimes 2 cups, just to feel normal. When he said just to feel normal, it hit me. Because that's the silent fatigue that comes with modern living. Our bodies are overfed but undernourished, overstimulated but underpowered. David wasn't lazy. He wasn't sick. He was simply disconnected from the rhythm his body once knew. And that's where this story really begins. You see, every morning your body wakes up to a biochemical symphony. Cortisol rises to give you energy, dopamine sparks motivation, and your cells start producing tiny molecules called ATP, the real energy currency of life. But after 40, that orchestra gets out of tune. The hormones play slower, the cells get tired, and suddenly the same routines don't work anymore. You drink your coffee and it helps for an hour. Then the crash. You eat your breakfast, but it feels heavy instead of energizing. And then you wonder, is this just aging? No, it's not. It's imbalance. What David didn't realize, and what most of us don't, is that the first thing we put into our bodies in the morning either restores that balance or destroys it. When your body wakes up, it's dehydrated, your liver is sluggish, and your brain is running on last night's leftover chemistry. And yet, most of us begin our day with caffeine, a stimulant that forces energy out of an already tired system. So one morning, I told David to try something different. Something simple, ancient, almost forgotten. Don't start with coffee, I said. Start with water, warm, clean water. Add half a lemon, 1 teaspoon of raw honey, and a pinch of pink Himalayan salt. He laughed. That's it? And I said, that's it. But what I didn't tell him right away was why it works. Because, like most healing things, the power of this drink isn't in the ingredients alone. It's in what it does to your internal rhythm. When you drink this mix first thing in the morning, something quiet but extraordinary happens. Your body doesn't jolt awake. It remembers how to wake up naturally. The lemon sends a signal to your liver. It's morning, time to cleanse. The honey gently restores glucose to your brain, steady, not spiking. And the salt, rich in minerals, whispers to your cells, you're hydrated, you're alive. This is more than a drink. It's a dialogue with your biology. David started it the next morning, and on the 3rd day, he texted me, I don't know if it's in my head, but I feel lighter. My energy feels clean. I smiled when I read that, because energy that feels clean, that's the difference between stimulation and restoration. Stimulation pushes you, restoration pulls you back to balance. That's the shift most of us need after 40. Not more power, but more harmony. And here's the truth most people forget. Your morning energy isn't built by caffeine or supplements. It's built by chemistry that responds to care. The body is miraculous, Janny. It remembers every good thing you give it. You don't need a miracle pill. You just need a consistent signal of love. When David replaced his coffee ritual with this simple drink, it wasn't just hydration, it was mindfulness. A small act of saying, I choose to wake up gently. And within 2 weeks, his morning fatigue was gone. He didn't lose weight or change his diet drastically. He just learned to align with his body instead of fighting it. That's what I want for you. Not to chase youth, but to remember vitality, not to fight time, but to cooperate with it. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for that cup of coffee, pause for a second. Remember David, remember that spark that used to be effortless, and then give your body a chance to remember it too. Pour that warm water, squeeze that lemon, add that honey, stir it slowly, watch the golden swirl. That's your energy returning to you. This isn't just about feeling younger, it's about reclaiming your mornings. When David told me he felt clean energy, I knew what he meant. Though he didn't have the language for it, clean energy isn't caffeine buzz. It's not the sudden jolt that leaves you trembling an hour later. It's the quiet steadiness that returns when the body's communication lines open again, when the gut, the liver, and the brain start talking in their original language. You see, for decades, scientists treated the human body like a collection of separate departments: digestion, circulation, cognition. But newer research tells a very different story. Those systems are one conversation, and that conversation begins in your gut. When you wake up dehydrated, your liver thick with last night's chemistry, your brain fogged from restless sleep, your gut is the first to speak. It whispers, "We're not ready yet," but most of us don't listen. We rush caffeine into the system, skipping the warm-up, forcing performance before preparation. It's like revving an engine that still has cold oil. That's why the simple drink works so powerfully. It gives the body permission to start its day on its own terms. Let's look at what's really happening inside. The moment the warm water hits your stomach, stretch receptors awaken. They send a signal through the vagus nerve, the great information highway between gut and brain, saying, "We're safe, we're hydrated, you can relax." This one signal alone lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that peaks in the early morning. The brain interprets hydration as safety, and safety as energy conservation. Then comes the lemon. Citric acid doesn't just taste fresh, it triggers bile production. Bile, in turn, tells your liver to release stored toxins and reset its metabolic rhythm. That's why ancient traditions always linked sourness to cleansing. They sensed this biological dialogue long before lab studies confirmed it. Now, the honey, it's more than sweetness, it's communication. Glucose is the brain's first language, a drop of pure fuel that says, "You have enough, you're okay." When that message lands gently instead of through a sugar spike, the brain's alarm systems quiet down. Dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine, the trio of focus, mood, and motivation, begin to balance. And finally, that pinch of salt. After 40, we lose minerals faster because our adrenal hormones fluctuate. Sodium, magnesium, and potassium are the body's electric current. Without them, nerves misfire, fatigue settles in, and even the heart's rhythm falters. A few crystals of unrefined salt carry back those microcurrents, reminding your cells of their natural charge. That's the real secret. You're not giving your body anything foreign. You're giving it the memory of balance. When David understood this, he stopped treating the drink as a hack. He treated it as a conversation. Each morning he'd say, "Okay, body, let's start gently today." And something remarkable happened. Not overnight, but gradually, predictably. On the 10th day, he noticed his cravings for mid-morning sugar vanish. By week 3, his afternoon crash was gone, and somewhere around the 4th week, his sleep deepened, not because the drink was magical, but because his circadian rhythm had finally heard the message. We're aligned again. There's a beautiful piece of research out of Stanford. It shows that when we correct dehydration and stabilize morning glucose, our dopamine baseline rises naturally, meaning we don't just feel energetic, we feel motivated, we're more likely to start the workout, make the call, take the walk, and that's how small rituals become life transformations. It's strange, isn't it? How the tiniest act, a glass of water, a squeeze of lemon, can open the door to psychological healing. Because fatigue isn't always about muscles or mitochondria. Sometimes it's about meaning, and every time we care for the body, the mind hears, "I'm worth caring for, that's what I want you to." Remember, the next time you stand in your kitchen at sunrise, you're not just making a drink, you're making a decision to begin your day in harmony, not in haste, to restore, not to rush. And if you think that sounds simple, it is, but simplicity is the hardest thing in a world addicted to complexity. We scroll for miracle supplements, but forget the miracles that fit in a glass. So tomorrow, before you reach for your phone, before the world's noise begins, start your day with silence, warmth, and intention. Drink slowly. Feel it travel through you. That's the first step toward feeling 20 again, not because you're turning back time, but because you're remembering how to live in rhythm with it. When I first began studying what we call fatigue, I thought it was purely biological. Something that started in the body, low mitochondria, low hormones, low vitamins. That's what most people believe, but years of listening to my patients and watching people like David rebuild their energy taught me something humbling. Fatigue often starts in the brain's reward system, not the body's muscles. Let me explain. Every day, our brains balance two opposing forces, pleasure and pain. It's what keeps us alive when we do something rewarding. Eat, scroll, watch, or even think of a goal. Dopamine rises. The brain says, "That felt good, do it again." But here's the truth no one tells you. The brain can't tolerate pleasure without balance. Every spike in dopamine must be followed by an equal dip, a small moment of pain, fatigue, or emptiness. This is nature's way of protecting equilibrium. So when we live in a world of constant stimulation, screens, sugar, notifications, energy drinks, even motivational videos, our dopamine system never gets a chance to rest. We're tricking the brain into endless anticipation. And over time, anticipation without satisfaction turns into exhaustion. That's why so many people after 40 feel perpetually tired, not because they re-old, but because they've been living in a dopamine roller coaster for decades. Each scroll, each sip, each little spike leaves a small dent in their baseline energy. This is where morning rituals like David's drink become so profound. They aren't exciting. They're not designed to flood you with dopamine. They do something far wiser. They retrain the brain to find reward in calmness. You see, real healing isn't about adding more stimulation. It's about learning to feel good without being overstimulated. Drinking something natural, slow, and mindful in the morning isn't just about hydration. It's a symbolic act. It tells your brain, pleasure doesn't need to be extreme. Energy doesn't need to be forced. And that small message, repeated daily, rewires your reward system from chaos to balance. That's what Dr.Anna Lembke calls the pleasure-pain balance. In her research, she describes how every act of overstimulation pushes the brain toward pain until even ordinary life feels dull. But when we consciously pull back, when we embrace moderation and simplicity, we begin to feel joy again, even in quiet things. That's why David told me something unexpected after his first month. He said, "I've started enjoying my mornings again. Not just the drink, but the silence before breakfast. That's dopamine equilibrium in action. The brain no longer chasing peaks, but learning to rest on a steady plateau of calm motivation." I often tell people, you don't lose your energy after 40. You lose your sensitivity to energy. You flooded your receptors for too long, so what used to feel alive now feels neutral. It's not that you need stronger coffee, brighter screens, or newer supplements. You need to give your brain space to reset its baseline, to fall in love again with the natural rhythm of being alive. This is where the body and the mind start talking again. When dopamine calms, cortisol follows, the heart slows, digestion improves, and cellular repair activates. Your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, finally get oxygen and rest. This is biological poetry. The quieter your mind becomes, the louder your body heals. I know this might sound philosophical, but it's also scientific. Studies from Stanford and Harvard have shown that even 5 days of reducing dopamine overload, less screen time, more sunlight, gentle morning hydration, can re-regulate dopamine receptors. The result? Improved energy, focus, and joy. It's not magic, it's balance. And that's the message I want to give to everyone watching, especially those over 40. If you feel drained, unmotivated, foggy, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your brain is asking for quiet. Your body is asking for rhythm. Your energy isn't gone. It's waiting for silence to return. So start small. Start where you are. When you make that morning drink, make it a ritual, not a routine. Feel the warmth in your hands, the scent of lemon, the sweetness of honey. Let your senses wake up slowly, because in that stillness, dopamine finds peace. And peace is the most powerful form of energy there is. That's the secret David discovered. And maybe it's the one your body has been whispering all along. When David's energy returned, it didn't happen by accident. It happened through rhythm. Through 3 quiet rituals that reconnected his body and his mind. The kind that sounds simple, almost too simple, until you live them and realize they were the missing pieces all along. Let's begin with the first one. Every morning before the world begins, David sat at his table with that same drink. Warm water, lemon, honey, salt, and he waited. For the first few days, he felt restless. His phone called to him. His mind screamed for distraction, but he learned to sit in that discomfort. And that, my friends, is the first step to rewiring energy. learning to sit in silence without escaping. Dr. Anna Lembke talks about this beautifully, how the brain heals in the space between pleasure and pain. When we stop chasing stimulation, dopamine recalibrates. It's like letting a shaken snow globe settle until the scene inside becomes clear again. That stillness every morning becomes a reset button. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. It increases alpha brain waves, the waves of creativity, calm, and presence. Within 10 minutes of quiet presence, your nervous system starts shifting from fight or flight into rest and repair. And that's when the real energy starts building. Not the kind you borrow from caffeine, but the kind you grow from balance. So the first ritual is simple. Start your morning with stillness, not stimulation. No phone, no news, just breath, warmth, and quiet intention. Let your mind remember what calm feels like, because calmness is the foundation of strength. Ritual 2, the movement of gratitude. David told me something once. He said, "I used to walk to burn calories, now I walk to burn anxiety." That shift changed everything. You see, movement after 40 isn't just about fitness. It's about circulation, connection, and emotion. Every step you take is a small message to your body saying, "I'm alive, I'm moving, I'm safe." Science backs this up. Gentle morning movement increases endorphins, the body's natural opioids that stabilize mood and sharpen focus. It improves insulin sensitivity, which means your cells can absorb energy more efficiently. But more than that, it teaches gratitude. When you walk and actually notice your surroundings, the texture of the air, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the sound of your breath, you stop living in deficit. You stop chasing what's missing and start feeling what's already there. That shift in perception transforms how your brain handles energy. Instead of being drained by stress and fear, your nervous system starts fueling itself with appreciation. So the second ritual is this: move with gratitude, not to achieve, not to prove, but to feel alive, because gratitude is nature, antidepressant, and movement is how you take it. And when David began walking each morning, not fast, not far, just consistently, he said something remarkable: "I feel like my body trusts me again." That's what movement does. It rebuilds trust between you and your biology. Ritual 3, the evening of reflection. We talk a lot about how to start the day, but the way you end your day decides how your energy begins tomorrow. At night, David started writing one simple line in a small notebook: "What did my body teach me today?" Some days the answer was small: I needed more water. Other days it was profound: I finally rested when I was tired. That tiny ritual anchored his awareness. Because the truth is, awareness is the most powerful supplement on earth. When you reflect, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-control and insight. You shift from reactivity to reflection. And that's where real healing begins. You start noticing patterns: when your energy dips, what triggers stress, what foods or habits bring clarity. You stop being at war with your body and you start being in dialogue with it. That's what I want for you. Not perfection, not discipline for the sake of control, but intimacy, the kind that makes you curious about your own energy instead of angry at it. So the third ritual is: end your day with reflection, not reaction, no screens, no noise, just one question to your body. What did you need today that I ignored? And then, listen, because healing is not something you force, it's something you hear. So these are the 3 rituals that rewire David's energy, and they can rewire yours too. Stillness in the morning, to restore your nervous system; movement with gratitude, to activate your body's inner power; reflection at night, to realign your mind and body connection. They sound simple because truth always does. But live them and you'll feel something extraordinary. Your body remembering how to heal. Your energy remembering how to rise. Your mind remembering what peace actually feels like. And that's when 40 doesn't feel like a decline. It feels like a beginning.